All right, I'm in the middle draft stage and I'm about to move my essay into the final draft stage. So I'm going to wrap things up here, but let's take a moment and go over what I've done so far, okay? And this is where you should be if you're finishing up the middle draft stage. And if you're not here yet, go ahead and get it here. And if you've moved ahead, great. I'll catch up to you in a bit, okay? Let me go through this for a bit and show you a little bit of what I've done and what I'm going to work on. And I'll tell you right now, as of right now, I don't quite know where the essay is going to go, okay? So we'll try to figure that out as we work through it. Let me get this moved into a good spot. Okay. Now, where I left out last time was this, and I've only done a little bit of work since. This is the first body paragraph, and I chopped up the painting into pieces that I determined, okay? It's everybody's painting, and you find the artist, and then you go and find the painting, okay? It's always up to you. I did this one because I really wanted you guys to kind of go out and explore and find a painting of your own. So I did Moses leaving Egypt so that I didn't accidentally take somebody's painting or otherwise. So I did this one. Let me show you how I did it. I chopped the first part out of the middle of the painting, and this is Moses in the back, and I pasted that section here. And then I shrunk it to about the size of a block quote, and I put it in the middle. I centered it. And what I did was I set up the context of it. The narrative of the painting begins in the background, where Moses is preparing to depart and leave Egypt. He occupies the central position, which would be appropriate as he occupies the leadership position. And I should probably end, wears a gold robe, which would be appropriate as he occupies the leadership position. Okay. And I'm going to do a little bit more of that when I turn the camera off for a moment. And then I described it here. That's what I wrote before. That was my description of this part right here. And right here, I got into my assessment of the aesthetics. Originally, the plan was for you to do some research and bring that in here. Don't worry about that. You don't need to do the research, okay? I'm not going to worry. If you do some research, great. And if you bring up something... Yeah, and by the way, going to Wikipedia doesn't really count as research or something like that, but you are perfectly welcome to go to Wikipedia to get some basic background. That's perfectly fine, okay? Normally, I would ask that you bring the research into the analysis right here. This is your assessment. Assessment and analysis mean the same thing. This is where I went into the aesthetics, and I just stick to the aesthetics. The backdrop of the painting sets a familiar harmony behind the other images, which is reflected in the balance of nature behind them and besides them. Moses stands at the center of this aspect of the painting in his golden robes, provides a focal point that balances this aspect. One thing I want you to notice is that I've used a number of parallels throughout this. So behind them and beside them stands at the center of this aspect of the painting, and his golden robe provides a focal point. That is something you can do in the middle draft stage, is bring in prepositional phrases, dependent clauses, and parallels. Those are what I call the 3 cheap stunts. And I like parallels. That's something in my writing I like to do. So really look for opportunities in the middle and later draft stages where you can bring in the cheap stunts. The prepositional phrases are just little phrases at the back, within this, or over there, or under that. Those are especially important in this assignment because they can allow you to bring in more description. Remember that phrases, the prepositional phrases, always act as adjectives and adverbs. They give better descriptions. So give that a go. In the middle draft stage, I've added more parallels, and I'm probably going to do a few other things. I don't have too many dependent clauses. When this, before or because, those kind of things can be added to my writing still as I move into the final draft stage. This sets a backdrop of a calm beauty, okay? And I want to add something to it, brought to the scene by Moses's central presence. There's my spelling. So I'm adding to this a little bit, and I'll do this a little bit more because I'm in the final draft stage. And I'm emphasizing now that Moses is bringing the harmony to this part of the painting. And you know where I go with this. I really argue that what happens is he gets displaced. That should cause a disruption, but Zipporah is the one who creates a harmony and a presence, because her calming presence and her insight into really what was going on and what was creating the problem is what gives the painting its harmony in spite of the disruption. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that. That's what I'm going to do. As I went through the process, I started to realize that that Moses in this early scene was providing the kind of calming, centralizing presence. As we got to the middle point, we got Zipporah doing that, and he's running into trouble. Okay. And I've got the second body paragraph, and I start moving Zipporah into the center of the essay. And then I show how she is really the central point of that third part of the narrative that goes on in the painting, when she's conducting the circumcision of her one son, and because that's what the angels were kind of upset about. And so this is a Jewish tradition being given a justification in this painting. That's what it is. It's a Jewish custom being given a justification in this painting, and the figure of Zipporah is the one who centralizes it and brings a calming presence and resolves this issue. Okay, so that's my overall thesis of what I'm doing, and I argue that the painting as a whole, because it goes from this to this problem to this resolution, is in the end my decision is that this is a beautiful painting because of Zipporah. That was my central idea about the whole painting. So I put as the fourth body paragraph the whole painting. Okay, so chop the painting up however you see necessary, and then you can come back to the whole painting in the end. That's what I've done, but it's up to you. Okay, so that's what I've done, how I've decided to chop it up. Those were the body paragraphs, the first, second, third, and fourth. I wrote those first. And now what I did was I wrote the introduction. I did a few sentences on the first body paragraph, a few on the second, on the third, and the fourth. And then I started pounding away at the thesis. This was what I was doing before I turned on the camera. I wrote this one. Perugino's Moses Leaving Europe uses an aesthetic of beauty through the composed and confident figure of Zipporah to reinterpret the story from Exodus of Moses leaving Egypt, which should have created problems for the viewer. And I was actually okay with that thesis, but I tried it again. Try your thesis a few times. And I really wanted to move Zipporah into the center of it, the figure of Zipporah who demonstrates good judgment and concern for her family and her people, because that's what she does. She shows concern for her family and really takes care of what the angel was doing, the trouble the angel was doing, and that acts to help the whole people. And she acts as a harmonizing presence when her husband takes the Jews from Egypt and runs into trouble with an angel. And I thought that was a little bit better, but I missed a few things. This was my third attempt. The figure of Zipporah in Perugino's Moses Leaving Egypt gives the painting a sense of harmony and beauty. Notice I make, and this is very, very important for your thesis statement, I make a judgment on the aesthetics. I classify this painting as beautiful. Okay, that's what I'm looking for in your thesis. I'm not looking for beauty or sublime in the end, as in it doesn't matter if I think the painting's beautiful or if I think it's sublime. What I want to hear from you is that you classify it as beautiful or sublime and how you do that. The very, very important question is the aesthetics, but also how you put it into the beautiful category or how you put it into the sublime category. I'm not looking for my interpretation of it. I'm looking for yours. I want to be very clear about that, but also I want to know how you went about it. Okay? So that's what I'm looking for in the thesis. This one I thought was better, but it's still not perfect. Now I'm going to put it all together, okay? So I'm going to turn it off for a bit, and I'm going to put it together, and let's see what happens when I do that, okay? Give me a moment. Okay, I decided to turn it back on a little bit early before I finished it, and just to show you how I put this other stuff together. This is going to be very, very boring, but I thought it might be helpful to many of you because I've gotten a few questions on some of these items, and I really wanted to go through them as I, put the essay together. What I have done when I turned off the camera was I copied and pasted what I put together for the introduction and the thesis at the start. So I'm going to put that together into an introduction, but I'm going to do some of the formatting things here. First thing is I need to insert the page number. Let's do that first. These are all the types of things you need to take care of in the final draft stage. So I'm going to go to Insert and get the page number. Okay, sorry about that. I got a little bit lost. So I'm going to insert. With this version of Word, it's under header and footer, okay? But a very big element of this is I don't want to insert a header or footer. I want to make sure I insert page number, okay? So page number, and I want the top right, not the bottom. And then I want to go in and I want to format it. Let's say I'm Dougie Smith, okay? Oh, this is being a little bit more difficult. I haven't worked with this program before. Okay, sorry about that. I got a little bit off track. Let me go back in here. And I'm going to be Dougie Smith. And there we go. So I got the page number and I did the insert. And then I did the name first. Okay, so I'm going to be Dougie Smith. That'll be my name. And that's very important because notice it did all the paging. Okay, Smith 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got it all. Okay. And now let me get the name and the identification stuff on there. I'll be Dougie Smith. And who's my teacher? That Pendleton guy. And he always insists that I spell his name correctly. Really upsets me. You don't need to put the section number. So if you've been looking that up in the past, yeah, don't worry about it. And the day it's due, I think it's due on the 13th. So always put the day it's due, not any other. So so that is your name, the instructor's name, the class, the date, okay? And I've got my last name and the page number. That's what you're getting. Now I got to come up with a title. So that's my title of my essay, Zipporah's Beauty Under Pressure. And then I center my title, okay? And so I've got my title on it, and I've got all the other identification stuff on it. That's pretty good, okay? Notice that, again, something I've mentioned in class, MLA is easier than not MLA. So that's not that tough once you've got it down, okay? So let's go through, and remember I'd written a couple sentences for every body paragraph, and now I'm putting that all together into one introduction, okay? And this was my thesis statement. It needs to be the last sentence of my introduction. I've got it here floating off. I need to make it part of the thesis. I need to put it right there, okay? There we go. So that is how the first page should look. I've got the name and the page number up here. I've got my name, the instructor's name, English 101, the date, then a couple returns, then my title of my essay, which tells you something about what I'm writing on. Okay, and then I've got my introduction, and I'm going to have to still refine this a little bit. But then everything leads up to the thesis statement, which is the last sentence of the introduction. It should not be formatted as a separate sentence, okay? And then there's these two returns here. And one thing I do want to tell you, I've told you this before, make sure you have on, and let's see if I can actually show it to you, this little guy, because what that does is it shows you these returns if you have it turned on. These do not print out. They're just shown in the electronic copy. So I have that turned on. I don't want these extra returns. I know my teacher gets all upset about it. He needs to get out more often. Okay, and then I've got the first body paragraph. It should start, not there. Okay, it should start right after the thesis statement. Now, something that's happened with this is the first sentence of the first body paragraph is starting on the top of page 2. It doesn't need to do that. It just happened this time. So, for many people, it will start here, or it might start further down on the second page. That's okay. My introduction has taken up the totality of the first page, and that's it. And that just happened. This, if I return it back any further, it goes into the thesis statement. I don't want that. Okay. This was my thesis statement right here. This is my first sentence. And notice this, I'm only going to hit return once. And it automatically started on the second page. Okay. So here's my this is your topic sentence, but it took me 2 sentences to set up the painting. And I centered this. I hit the center right here. It made it look a little bit better. Okay. And then I didn't like the fact that the text was running right up there, so I gave it a little bit of space. And then I had my description, and my analysis needs to be part of that body paragraph. So I take it up, and notice that this description right here is right next to the analysis. Don't put it in a separate body paragraph. Intellectually, it is different. This is my analysis right here. This description led up to my analysis, but I do not need a separate body paragraph for it because they both deal with this piece of evidence, okay? So that's the format I'm following on it, is I'm putting this here, and I'm just centering it. I should tell you, by the way, you can do this and just indent it like that. That would be perfectly fine. In fact, I'll probably do it. I just use this. This little guy is actually very useful for formatting block quotations. And let's get to the second body paragraph. I'm getting rid of those extra returns. Those are not needed. Only the indent is what you should use to separate the paragraphs. And then this sets the context up to the next part of the painting, which is right here. And why don't I keep doing that? I'll keep putting it to the left and then using that little guy, okay? That's basically my next block quotation, okay? And then there's the description of this section of the painting. And I still do need to refine it, but I'll do that in a moment. And then I bring up my analysis. This was my analysis right down here. I bring it up into the body paragraph. It should not be formatted as separate from the description. In your final essay, you want it formatted as part of the same body paragraph. Now, this right here is part of the third body paragraph, okay? And so I do not need an extra return. I need to get rid of that. But I do need to indent it, okay? And here is my next frame from the painting. And let's just go ahead and use this guy again. Okay, so it's formatted like a block. And I think it's too kind of big there. So I'm going to format it a little bit smaller. That's what I'll do. And once again, here's the description. Here's the analysis. Let me bring that up. And so they're part of the same body paragraph. That's my third body paragraph. And here's my fourth. Okay, and let me bring this one up. And then indent it. This is the topic sentence to the fourth body paragraph. And here is the slice of the painting. And let's not center it. Let's just bump it in a little bit. And this is my description. And then this was my analysis. Notice I had hit a return here. I don't want that. And let's get that formatted properly. Now the analysis starts immediately after the description. So now I have all of my body paragraphs in my introduction formatted properly. I'm going to turn it off for a little bit, and I'll be back, and I'll show you the final version. Give me a moment. Okay, let me go through the final thing I've come up with, and hopefully Pendleton will be a little bit nicer about this, because you know how he is. So I've got all the page number stuff and the identification information all done, okay? And I've even spelled his name correctly so you won't get crabby. Okay, then I came up with my own title for this essay. I did not entitle it Moses Leaving Egypt. That's the title of the painting. So, and I kind of figured out that should probably be in quotation marks, not in italics. I think. I'm not positive on that. But that's how I did it in the works cited in the end. So I'll have to go through and fix that. Moses leaving Egypt, should be in quotation marks, not italics. That's a little thing. I'll try to figure that out later. But that's my introduction, okay? And I'll get this one later on. And then I had the first body paragraph with this quotation in the end, a selection from the painting. Okay. Then I had my description and my analysis of that section of the painting. Then I had my next body paragraph, and I set the context. That's what you probably learned in the past as topic sentence. That's what that was. It takes usually about 2 to 3 sentences. Then I have my my next segment of the painting, and I described it, and then I analyzed it, and then I have the next segment of the painting. I set up the context. And then I cut and pasted it here. And there he is. Moses is checking things out. Zipporah is getting the work done. And this guy is going, I'm glad it's not me. And then I describe it. And then my analysis of it. Notice it's all part of the same body paragraph. And here we go with I'm setting the context of the final body paragraph. Here it is, right here. I did the final body paragraph on the whole painting. Okay. I described it and I analyzed it, and I always bring up the aesthetics. I said what could have been sublime disruption becomes a beautiful image. So notice I classify it as beautiful. And I essentially argue that the beauty overcomes what's disruptive, could have been disruptive, and that's what he's got. And then I got a full conclusion. Make sure you have a conclusion. I rewrote the thesis statement. And notice this is going to echo the thesis statement at the start. It's going to echo it, but it's not exactly the same. But it's work with me. Zipporah gives Perugino's Moses Leaving Egypt a sense of harmony and beauty as she shows good judgment for her family and people by knowing the angel who stopped and threatened her husband, wanted her son and his son to be circumcised according to Jewish custom. That is my revised thesis. It's coming at the top of the conclusion. It's the first sentence. And then I summarized my overall reading of the painting here. Okay, I've got Perugino has taken what should have been troubling and he's made it better with Zipporah. Blah, blah, blah. And then I did the works cited. And here's what you want to do for the works cited, guys. Normally, the works cited would have been about 3 sources. You've only got 1. Okay? You might have an outside source, but okay. You've got Perugino, Moses Leaving Egypt. It's the painting is that I'm citing here. Okay? So I put the painter, Perugino, and put Moses Leaving Egypt is the name of the painting. Where did I get it from? I got it from Wikipedia. That's where I got it. And again, normally, I really want to insist that you understand Wikipedia is not normally considered to be solid research. It isn't. We want to get the semester done, so that's okay. That's acceptable. No problem. Okay? So I just really wanted to give the works cited for that. And it's an electronic source, so it doesn't really have a publication date. It has an access date. That's the date I went to it, which was June 8th. Why they do that is because, as you know, web pages get updated every few days, every few weeks, every few months, every few years. You want to be clear about what date you accessed it, okay? Because if somebody else comes along and wants to check out your research, they might or might not find the same stuff, okay? That is it. That is what you really want to take care of for the final version of the essay. Go through that checklist I've posted there and make sure you cover all these things. Make sure they're in there, because when I read through the essay to put the final grade on it, that's what's in my head, is that checklist as I go through it bit by bit, okay? All right, guys, that was a long video, but I really wanted to address some of the questions that have come in, and I appreciate the questions that have come in. They've been good. So I've taken a little more time to cover all this. You guys, good luck with this. Just get it done as best you can. It'll be due on Saturday, okay? And you can refer back to this video as you need to. Take care.